Let's talk about something most people don't even realize they're doing until they're exhausted, confused, and emotionally drained: overgiving. And specifically, how that habit of overgiving doesn't just enable avoidant behavior, it actually hides it. It masks the avoidant's true emotional capacity because you're filling in the gaps before they even have a chance to notice them. Now, let's be honest. Overgiving isn't generosity. It looks like generosity. It feels like love. It often starts with the best intentions, but underneath it, overgiving is often a survival strategy. It's a way of managing anxiety, securing connection, or avoiding abandonment. It's rooted in the belief that if you can just be enough, kind enough, patient enough, available enough, you'll finally unlock the love you're craving from someone who can't or won't meet you there. And when that person is avoidant, your overgiving becomes the perfect cover for their emotional absence. You become the emotional engine of the relationship. You initiate the conversations. You drive the intimacy. You make the compromises. You soothe the conflicts. You offer, you accommodate, you bend. And they get to coast. Not because they're bad people, not because they're intentionally manipulating you, but because the dynamic works for them, as long as you keep playing your role. Avoidants are often deeply uncomfortable with emotional closeness. Intimacy feels like a threat to their autonomy. So they create distance, subtle or not. And over time, you adjust to that. You lean in further, try harder, give more. And here's what happens. You start managing their side of the relationship too. You apologize first, even when you didn't do anything wrong. You send the follow-up text when they've gone quiet. You explain your feelings 3 times, hoping they'll finally understand. You lower your expectations so you won't be disappointed again. You shrink your needs so they won't feel pressured. And all the while, they don't have to stretch. They don't have to grow. They don't have to face their own discomfort with vulnerability because you're doing all the heavy lifting. So when you stop overgiving, really stop. It's not just a behavioral shift. It's a revelation. You remove the scaffolding that was holding the entire dynamic in place, and suddenly the avoidant doesn't have you to lean on anymore. They're exposed to the emotional gaps you were covering up. They can't pretend not to notice because your absence creates space. Loud, undeniable space. Here's the thing. The avoidant does notice when you stop overgiving. They may not say it right away. They may even react with confusion, defensiveness, or withdrawal. But make no mistake, they feel the shift. Because the person who used to rush in and emotionally rescue the situation has gone quiet. The person who used to carry both hearts is no longer bending over backwards. And in that space, they're left to confront themselves. Some of them will step up, some of them won't. But either way, you've changed the rules of the game. And that changes everything. Because when you're not managing the connection for two, you finally get to see what they're actually capable of bringing to the table. This is not about being cold. It's not about punishing. It's not about playing games. It's about coming back into balance, emotionally, relationally, energetically. It's about standing in your worth, not as a weapon, but as a boundary. When you stop overgiving, you stop sending the message that love is earned by effort. You start sending the message that love is reciprocal, or it's not love at all. And here's something else. When you stop overgiving, you start noticing everything too. You notice how quiet the relationship gets when you stop pushing it forward. You notice how your nervous system settles when you're not constantly bracing for emotional rejection. You notice how much you've been overfunctioning just to keep things afloat. And that awareness is powerful because it doesn't just give you clarity, it gives you choice. When you overgive, you're trying to control the outcome, you're trying to secure something uncertain. But when you let go of that habit, you stop performing for love and you start inviting love. You stop proving and you start observing. And from that place, you're no longer trapped in someone else's emotional limitations. You're finally free to ask the real question. Are they actually capable of meeting me where I am? Or have I just been dragging them along this whole time? Here's what I want you to remember. If someone only starts noticing you when you stop overgiving, they were never seeing you to begin with. They were only seeing what you were doing for them. Stop doing and start being. If they can't meet you there, walk away with your dignity intact. Because love should never be something you have to earn through exhaustion. Now let's talk about what happens when you finally pull back. Not to punish, not to manipulate, but to reclaim your space. That moment when you stop over-functioning in a relationship with someone avoidant creates a shift so real, so powerful that it shakes the entire foundation the dynamic was built on. Why? Because silence, your silence, forces accountability. And accountability is exactly what the avoidant partner has been dodging the entire time. Let's be clear, people with avoidant tendencies aren't villains. They're often emotionally overwhelmed, even if they don't look like it on the outside. Many have deep wounds around intimacy, vulnerability, and trust, often developed in childhood when closeness didn't feel safe or reliable. So they learn to self-soothe through distance, through withdrawal, through silence. And when things feel too close, they shut down or detach as a way to protect themselves. The problem is, if you're someone who's wired for connection, especially if you lean anxious, that behavior can feel like emotional starvation. And here's where the overgiving starts. You sense their distance, and instead of sitting with that discomfort, you reach in. You try to fix it. You call again, text again, explain again. You smooth things over. You offer understanding. You lower your needs, thinking that'll make them stay present. But every time you do that, you're giving them a pass on showing up fully. You're removing the pressure to participate, to engage, to own their side of the relationship. You make it easy for them not to grow. But the moment you stop doing that, the moment you stop running after them, stop filling in their silences, stop trying to guess their needs before they speak them out loud, everything changes. Because now for the first time, they're left to feel the weight of their own emotional behavior. They have to sit in the silence they used to control. They have to confront the fact that you're no longer making it easy for them to disconnect without consequence. That space you create when you pull back is not a punishment. It's a mirror. And that mirror is uncomfortable. It reflects their avoidance patterns back at them. Without the buffer of your constant reassurance, some will get defensive, some will ghost, some will lash out. And that's okay, because what you're seeing is the emotional cost they've never had to pay before. It's not your job to fix that. It's their job to notice it, sit with it, and choose what to do next. You are not abandoning them. You are no longer abandoning yourself. And this is where the psychological shift happens. Avoidants thrive in ambiguity. They prefer not being pinned down because it gives them a sense of control. But the moment you step out of that dynamic, when you no longer overextend just to hold it together, they lose that control. Now they have to decide whether to lean in or let go. And here's the truth. Some will step forward awkwardly, imperfectly, but honestly, and others will fade. Either way, you've given them the opportunity to face themselves. The beauty of pulling back isn't just in what it reveals about them. It's in what it restores in you. When you stop trying to emotionally manage another person, your nervous system begins to settle. You stop living in constant anticipation of abandonment. You come back to yourself. You begin to see that connection built on overgiving is not connection, it's performance. And real intimacy can't exist when one person is doing all the emotional labor. Philosophically, this is about dignity. It's about recognizing that relationships, romantic or otherwise, must be mutual arenas of truth. If one person is constantly overreaching and the other is perpetually retreating, the relationship isn't built on love. It's built on anxiety, imbalance, and emotional avoidance. By stepping back, you're no longer chasing clarity from someone who won't give it. You're creating clarity by refusing to participate in a system that erases your needs. And from that place of grounded self-respect, you gain real power. Not the kind that controls others, but the kind that anchors you in your own truth. So when you feel that urge to step in and smooth things over, I want you to pause. I want you to remember that not every silence is yours to fill. Sometimes silence is the space where someone else's growth begins. Because if you always make the first move, they'll never have to. And if they never have to, they never get to grow, reflect, show up. So let them. Let the silence speak. Let the discomfort teach. Let the distance do its job. And here's your closing thought. If someone only responds when you stop trying, it was never a relationship. It was a performance. Stop performing. Start witnessing. Let the truth show itself. There's a moment after the overgiving stops, after the silence settles in, after you've stepped back, when something remarkable happens. You begin to see clearly. Not just the avoidant, not just the relationship, but yourself. Because when the noise of your effort fades, the truth has room to speak. And this is the part nobody talks about enough. The clarity that comes from shifting the dynamic isn't just about whether the avoidant starts noticing you. It's about whether you finally start noticing what you've been tolerating, what you've been missing, what you've been giving up just to keep the connection alive. Because let's be real, overgiving fogs your vision. It keeps you so busy tending to the emotional weather of someone else that you stop checking the forecast in your own heart. When you pull back, there's an initial rush of discomfort. It feels unnatural, even scary, because for so long you've equated your value with your effort. You've measured the strength of the relationship by how hard you've worked to maintain it. And now, without all that overfunctioning, you're just still, present, waiting. And that stillness is where the truth begins to emerge. You start to realize how little you were actually receiving, how many of your emotional needs were being negotiated down, how often you've explained yourself in the hope of being understood, only to be met with a blank stare or total shutdown. You begin to feel the weight of your own exhaustion, the quiet grief of having carried the emotional load for two people. And with that clarity comes a reckoning. Have I been in a relationship? Or have I just been managing an emotional illusion? For the avoidant, your shift stirs something too, because now they have to decide, will they lean in or will they fade out? If they lean in, it won't be because you pulled them. It will be because they chose to. And that's the entire point. You stop trying to earn love through effort, and you start inviting authenticity through presence. You give the other person the gift of choice, and that gift is sacred, because it reveals what they're truly capable of. This isn't about testing people. This is about letting people show you who they are when you stop doing all the work for them. And that includes you, by the way, because when you stop overgiving, you also get to see yourself more clearly, not just your patterns, but your strength. You begin to notice the parts of you that were silenced in order to keep the peace, the parts of you that made yourself small to avoid triggering their discomfort. You see the intelligence in your needs. You see the beauty in your boundaries. You begin to honor your sensitivity as wisdom, not weakness. And here's the philosophical heart of it. Clarity gives you sovereignty over your time, your emotions, your energy. You are no longer tethered to the emotional avoidance of someone else. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are choosing yourself. And from that place, something profound shifts. You stop hoping the relationship will change, and instead you start observing whether it even can. You move from reaction to reflection, from survival to discernment. This doesn't mean you shut yourself off. It means you open your eyes. You stop working overtime to create connection where reciprocity is absent. You stop confusing effort with compatibility. Because love is not supposed to be earned through exhaustion. Real love, healthy love, is mutual, conscious, and chosen again and again, not coerced through one person's endless effort. When you stop overgiving and clarity kicks in, it's like turning on the lights in a room you've been stumbling through in the dark. You start to notice where you've been compromising too much. You begin to see the difference between a relationship that grows you and one that drains you. And maybe most importantly, you start to trust yourself again. You realized that pulling back wasn't rejection, it was alignment. You weren't losing the relationship, you were finding the truth. So if you're in that place right now where you've stopped overgiving and you're standing in the quiet wondering what comes next, don't rush. Stay there. Watch. Let clarity unfold. The truth of any relationship is never in what's said when you're overfunctioning. It's in what remains when you finally stop. Here's your final takeaway. When you stop overgiving, you stop guessing. You see, you feel, you know. And in that knowing, you no longer chase clarity, you become it.